Yeah, okay, good.
Go.
Okay, go.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City of Ione to order on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Janice, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Atlan,
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Here.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ratten,
Here.
Mayor LaFave.
Here. Item B is closed session, conference with real property negotiators. We're going to move that to the end of the agenda. And prior to going into closed session, we will have public comment on that item. Okay, can we have the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
Pledge of Allegiance or something tonight. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have no presentations or announcements. So now we'll take public comment on any item that is not covered on the agenda.
Council had a little controversy about the BCOs in the prison. I'd like to read this paragraph from Supreme Court, Amador County, case number 22 CV 12824, page 45 of it. It says the Central Valley Regional Quality Board has identified concerns with the quality of Mule Creek prison water, including the presence of the volatile organic matter, VOCs, in their prison discharge. The Regional Quality Board has identified these issues in 2018. And today is literally unsafe prison water remains unsolved. On October 21st, 2021, the Regional Board ordered additional monitoring and reporting requests from VOCs under the wastewater permits for all parties, including cities and ARSA, shared permitting where government ARSA flows into the city tertiary plant, and is separately CDCR's permit governing the prison's wastewater treatment plant. I wish us to put an end to it. The VCOs are in prison water. This is court case. So I'd like people to know that it's in. Jack Mitchell was right. Thank you.
That you voted on.
Mr. Lee, if I could have you, there's 7 of these for hopefully for you. I know you need to move on to things, so let's make it as quick as can. What you're looking at is a memo from the Department of Corrections back to a third party that made a public records request regarding Mr. Atlan's employment. Just to save time, let's skip to the highlighted where it says Dominic Atlan is not employed or contracted with the CDCR, but rather the Prison Industry Authority, parentheses PIA. Then let's go back to what we were looking at last week, page 5 of an 8-page memo from Regional Water to the prison about what you have to do to make it better. And under the title of Inadequate Industrial Waste Stream Treatment Management, the current wastewater treatment plant is designed and operated to effectively treat domestic waste, but not the industrial waste stream generated by the various documented industries operating within the prison. And a little footnote, none of these were ever in the EIR for the prison, none of them. These prison industry authorities, AKA CalPIA, industrial operations include meat packing, laundry, sewing, garment assembly, coffee roasting, and lunch packaging. Now, yeah, okay, he doesn't work for corrections, but he does work for PIA. And we have always been screaming for years that PIA has been the source of the contaminants in the water. So since he is an employee of the source of the contaminants, I'm going to strongly suggest that he be removed from the wastewater committee and replaced by somebody else. Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any more public comment? Janice, anybody on Zoom? Oh, here we go.
Hi, I'm Mitzi Wendley. I live in the city limits of Ione. I could be mistaken, but I'd like to ask why it doesn't seem like there's public comment after the council meets or speaks about anything. Dominic made a thing that it was a circus, and it was a circus. But everybody has the right to their opinion and speak. And the mayor just kept hitting that gavel and telling everybody she was out of order, everybody was out of order. And I think people should be able to comment, to speak how they feel. We elected you all. So I'm just making sure, so I'm not mistaken. After each thing on the agenda, there will be a time for public comment. Am I correct?
You are.
And do you know that you have the right to reopen public comment? That is the right. You have a right to be able to reopen it.
Thank you
So,
for reminding me. I will keep
Well-
that in mind.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Is anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, we're closing public comment. Moving on to the consent calendar. I have a couple items for discussion. The warrants, item number 1.
So is this something that you're going to clarifying questions, or do you want to pull it for discussion?
I don't know. Probably clarifying questions. I mean, we're being asked to approve them, so I just kind of want some clarification. Let me find it. On, gosh, page 9. Kind of a 2/3 of the way down. Looks like it's a PG&E charge, but it doesn't identify where exactly that location is, and it's both are $2,000 a month. That City Hall?
Streetlights.
Those are streetlights? Okay. Wow. And the other item was Site 1 landscape supply. I'm sorry, page 11. Modular controller expansion. Rotor, is that for the wastewater treatment plant or? It's a landscape, so.
It's definitely a public works thing that I could find out. Like the modular controllers and.
Yeah, it's the. Okay. And then, Weber Geo and Associates, they our interim building inspector currently? I thought we were putting out proposals. Pardon me? And they were the lowest? I'm sorry, what?
Previous, they were already in place, they were years ago in place. So we put out a RFP on that application for a building inspector, in-house building inspector.
And,
Can you talk into the mic, George?
yeah, we
so the
can't, I
audience
can't
can
hear you.
We've put out bids to get it in-house to replace Joshua, who left.
Right.
Yes,
So is this company acting as interim building
Yes.
inspector? That was
Yes.
my question.
correct, yes.
Okay. And they were the lowest?
Well, they were in place. I did not hire
We
them.
had 2 in place.
We had,
We had Wildan
Yes.
and Weber Geo at the same
Right.
time. So Weber Geo beat Wildan's discounted rate.
well, I don't know what, I didn't look at that, but we just use them right now because they were in place. So. if we-
Okay, I was under the understanding both were in place.
Yeah, they're both in place, I think. They're both doing the same thing, but depending on what's more efficient in terms of, right now, there is some continuity with Mr. White, who's already been doing some things. And then with newer things, for example, like Wildflower, Mr. Mitchell has been doing some of those type of things.
Okay. That's all I have on the consent calendar. We want to get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to move the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Approve a memorial bench for the Owens family in the Ione Memorial Garden for the Scherer family. I think there's a little confusion as to the documents that are in here.
Well, Lena's here, so she, addressed it with Parks and Recreation.
What can I help with?
Well, there was discussion had with the city manager and Mr. Atlan prior to the Parks and Rec meeting that, to my understanding, this was going to be changed before it came here.
Change, oh, okay, I wasn't aware of any of
Well,
that.
that's what.
Okay. So I was directed to write the staff report
Right,
based on
I
our
understand
Parks
that.
and Rec meeting, so.
Okay,
I might be able to help there. So at the Parks and Rec meeting, the decision from Parks and Rec was that the Owens family and the Shearer family can pick any bench they want. And the metal bench in the package here is for the program going forward.
Yes, and in my staff report, I did indicate that even though I had presented it as using that bench, it was said that they could pick their own bench for these two because we want to get them moving forward. So I did specify that in my staff report, but I still included a picture or specs on the bench that we had chosen originally, because that will be the bench that we will use moving forward after these two are put in place.
okay, go ahead with your presentation.
So
Are these two different projects?
they are, I don't have a lot of information about both because they were both in the works maybe before I came. Well, I know Shearer was already happening before I came aboard. And then, the other one has happened, but I haven't really been a part of that. So my staff report is pretty basic. But essentially, we want to get both of them moving forward. We want to approve a bench for the, I'm sorry, I get nervous when I stand up here.
You can go ahead and do your presentation. I'm
Yeah,
just curious
let her
because
do
these
it.
are two different things.
Yes,
Just let her do her presentation and council can ask her questions after she's done.
Thank you. So we want to move forward the right for the Owens family to go ahead and put their bench in place. I've specified in the staff report that it doesn't have to be the metal bench that we had outlined for the program. So that is something that I believe has already been worked out and the police association has offered to pay for that. So that should come in at very little to no cost to the city to have that done, aside from just the manpower to actually install the bench. And then the memorial garden for the Shearer family, that bench was already approved and put in place months ago, I believe, back in maybe in October or something like that. And so now what they're wanting to do is do a memorial garden around the bench. And it's in a subdivision, or it's in a vacant lot that the city owns within the Castle Oaks subdivision. So there's really nothing there. So improving it with a garden, and it will all be done by donation and volunteer work. And then the water to water the garden, maintain the garden, will be tapped into one of the Castle Oaks irrigation lines. So there will be no cost as far as watering or installing the garden, that sort of thing. This will sort of roll into our memorial bench program. Moving forward, we can offer the public a bench or a bench or two. We can offer them a tree. Those things still need to be chosen. And they can install that or plant that either at Howard Park in an area that we predetermine or in that garden, which will be called the Memorial Garden. So that as well will be done at little to no cost to the city.
Any clarifying questions from council? Dominic?
Nope.
Councilman Rhodes? Mitchell? Okay, thank you. I'd like to open up for public comment for the bench process. Anyone on Zoom? No? Okay, we'll close public comment. I would like to just clarify something for the record. There's a little bit. In your report, it says that I requested a memorial bench for the Owens family.
Okay,
Actually, you remember what I did. I saw the paperwork that the Shearer family had to go through to try to get the bench moving back in. I think when they
There was
came
no
to-
paperwork though ever established. So I
No,
guess that's
that's-
where my confusion was because you had brought it up at a Parks and Rec Commission, my very first one actually. And we were all like, okay, great. And then I never saw anything, but that doesn't mean that nobody else ever did. But personally, I never saw anything.
Okay,
So there was
well-
no application process in place.
exactly. So if I could just finish.
Okay.
So I did the research, looked at other cities. We didn't have a process. And I put the report together and gave it to Amy with 99% of the work done for an informal policy that the city could adopt. So it would be a streamlined process. If somebody wanted a memorial bench, they could just come in and fill out an application.
Okay.
And that was given to our prior city manager in March. I never came and asked for a wooden bench for the Owens family. They have talked about a wooden bench. That's what their preference was, but I'm not insistent on a wooden bench. I just wanted it to be left up to the family. That was the police department's intention, that they'd be able to pick out a bench that the family loved. So that was, my input on that. If they want to pick this bench, great. But, they should be able to pick just like the police department wanted their own bench.
Okay.
So that was
So
just
from
clarifying.
My directive was just to write a policy, choose a bench, and that way it's a standard.
No, I understand your role.
Okay.
But,
I understand.
you understand.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're approving these two benches only. We're not approving the process of the memorial bench process itself, or is that going to come to us at
Oh.
another time?
No, that will be separate. I haven't
Okay,
had time to write
definitely.
that yet. I just wanted to get
Okay.
these two moving forward since they were waiting. We didn't want to keep everyone waiting.
Okay,
And then in the next month or two, I will present the actual
Okay.
process.
Right, thank you.
and to speak to at least the Owens bench, Thomas Bork, I always pronounce his last name wrong, has offered to pay for the installation, all of the materials and the labor. Jonathan Mitchell from Wildan did the plans for free on his time, and he's the one that he created the plan in here. So there's been a lot of people that have stepped up, and so there shouldn't be any cost to the city for that location. So
Very good.
it's great that we have people like that are stepping up.
Yeah.
So
And if I could clarify for the record, it's not the police department, it's the foundation.
the foundation, yes, police department's foundation.
Thank you.
So that's it. Discussion none.
Apparently,
All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve a memorial bench for the Owens family and the Ione Memorial Garden for the Shearer family.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Okay, the next item, number 2, adopt a resolution number 2024-13, Senate Bill 1, SB 1, road maintenance project for year ending 2024 and 2025.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor, members of the city council. This is a requirement for us to receive the SB 1 road maintenance funds. They kind of already have set up because we've done this, I think this is now our 8th year receiving these funds. And how it works is we have to give them a list beforehand of what we are hoping to accomplish with this money so that they can approve it or it fits in with their parameters. I don't know a lot about our streets in the town. So what I did is for this purpose of this is pick the one from last year and then give you a list of the list that was made up from, I think it was 2015. No, not 2015. Sorry, that was too long ago. But we had a list that was already projected and how much it would cost from a few years ago. So everything here is just kind of geared just following last year's. But obviously, if there's a project that's more needy or something we think we can get done quicker, sooner, I'm open ears. It won't be that hard to change this. The other option too is we have to have this by July 1st, but we do have another meeting. So if this is something you guys, because it's coming to you guys kind of quickly, you guys need to think about it a little bit more. That is the option. Also, I would like to say that in doing this, I went onto the website to see what we did in prior years and where we're at. And we have quite a few projects from prior years that we haven't completed. Some of them are in process, or we have the like maybe did some engineering. And we have some completed, but I will say that the West Marlette Street between Sacramento and Dave Bruick had been listed 3 other years, which is what's one of the things they do is they do want that because they know we have to build up funds. That could be $1 million project, and if we're only getting 250,000 a year, might take us 4 or 5 years. And then we have smaller projects that were listed on there a couple different times that are not completed. So we could do that. So we could pick one that we haven't completed, that we started, finish that up, or look at our list and say, this project wasn't that critical 2 years ago, but this year it's super critical. We really need to get that done. And then we can let them know, and it has to be a resolution. So like I said, if it doesn't happen tonight, if you guys need more information, just let me know. We can kind of vet this out a little more if that would help. And then we can send this off to them, if not this week, after the next meeting, and make sure we get that money. Because between the I call this RSMB, but this SB1 money, I think I wrote it in here. How much money they're giving us? It's $226,492 is what they estimated. And then we also get the highway user tax gas money, and that's going to be another like 260,000. So we're going to get about $500,000 from them this year between the two. And we don't have to do anything for the HUT, the HUTA stuff, but this is the RMRA funds, which is the SB1 funds. We have to do this resolution to get it.
This
So,
basically serves as a template from prior years, and it
Thank
just continues to build on. So what you see here is a list that was compiled last year.
Yeah, I think we approved it last year, didn't we?
So as
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
projects finished, then the other ones kind of continue to move up. So again, this is a template of all the different projects that the city would like to get done. But you can choose the priority.
right.
We've rolled it over every year for, I think,
Right.
5 years. What's
Right.
our grand total now?
We have about 1.8 million, but that's because even though we've been rolling it over, we can use this money, not the SB1 money, but the gas tax money, we do use somewhat for public works or other little smaller
Mhm.
projects that are streets or roads or sidewalks. So we can use it for that. It's just restricted as in
Right.
the category, but the SB1 money has to be used for one of these projects.
Right.
Yeah, because before we had, West Marlette is the biggest disaster and the
Right.
problem is the sewer lines broke underneath. And
Right.
you're allowed to fix utilities under the road with that fund. So that's what we were always
Right.
saving for because if
It's a big
that's
number.
the worst end of it, then we can come
Right.
backwards.
And I think that's on our list for different
It
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to, this might be the year we have enough money to do it. Because the other part that they ask when we submit this list is when we think we might start it and how long we think it's going to take. So if we think we're going to get going next spring or this fall, we put that in there and how long we think it's going to complete, 1 year, 2 years.
Okay.
So. Any other
Councilman
questions?
Atlan?
I just do what Stacy said. I think we've got several years of SB1 money.
Right.
I'd like to know what that is, less the other gas tax money, and then bring that to us with we probably have 800,000. And this, because we have been saving the SB1 money for a couple of years. So I think it'd be better if we can get that money brought to us. And then maybe the city engineer's recommendation on which streets are the worst or where you get the most value for your money. I personally, work through the list. I don't have any preference on the list at all. But obviously the city engineer would know which roads need the money more than other roads. So that's what I'd like to get back before we decide to spend the money. But I think we've kicked it down the road for 3 or 4 years and we should spend it.
Right.
Because prices are
We
going
have
up.
to.
Yeah, as far as I know, they'll let you just keep adding money to it, but it would be nice to get a project done at some point too. Even if we pick one, because you can pick more than one project. We could pick a big project, save a majority and have it like you said, if the engineer is saying, even though this road is really small, it's really bad and it would only cost 200,000, that might be something that we could put in there too and at least get something done. But yeah, speaking to what Dominic said, I could break out the gas tax, the HUDA money separate from the SB1 money. And then, although we can use the gas tax money for the SB1, we don't have to. So that could be 2 separate projects.
This is just to get.
Diane?
You can always pick the priority later.
Yeah, and our pavement plan is actually, I believe, 2015. So
Oh.
we may want to consider getting a new pavement plan.
Right.
I would also like to see what the engineer would say, what's the biggest bang for our buck? Are we better off doing some of the maintenance that will save the roads from failing in 5 years?
Okay.
And doing some of the bigger, one of the other bigger projects. But West Marlette, I said it every year, West Marlette needs to make its way onto the list at some point. We have to get that road fixed.
Councilman Rhodes?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Well, I'm in agreement.
So from what I'm hearing, and we haven't had public talk yet, but we'll get a little bit more information and I'll talk with Jonathan about his priority list and then I can bring that back at the next meeting and we can.
And the total funds.
Right, and then we'll finalize this before the July 1st deadline. They make it sound so ominous, but
Well, they won't give you your money if you don't.
I know, so.
Okay, thank you, Jody.
I'll sit down so public can
I got
comment.
it. I'll open it up for public comment.
And what you people, Stacy brought up the fact that West Marlette, your sewers collapsing. And I was hoping they'd use COVID money on it, which you could do, and the city did not do it. That needs to be done. You don't need an engineer to tell you it's caving in. All you gotta do is look at the pictures. I mean, this ain't rocket science. I've only worked on roads for 35 years. And a lot of your roads around here, the base there's no base. So where it's pumping, it's gonna pump again. If you dig it up and put 4 inches of pavement on, it's eventually gonna pump again. You don't have the drainage set up right. That's just my opinion. The wildflowers, wildflowers one of them, and a lot of the main drive over at Fairway Drive on Castle Oaks, same problems, why it's pumping. Because you got clay underneath it, you put rock in it, holds water, it pumps. You ain't gonna keep it. You gotta have a drainage to drain it. That's just my opinion for 35 years of working with this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anyone on Zoom, Janice? No? Okay, we're going to close public comment on that item. Item number 3, discussion regarding the process to amend the duties under compensation for the city clerk.
I'll go ahead and take that. So at the March 19th, 2024 meeting, I was asked to bring this back. It was supposed to be last week, but or the last meeting did not happen. So here we are. We've got the information before you. So to give a little bit of a background on what we're discussing here, as the city clerk is an elected position. It is a required position for a city. City must have an elected clerk. The elected clerk is elected under the premise that it is the independent voice in City Hall. What the law also allows for is the council, who is the policymaking body for the entire city, to set the compensation. The compensation can be set. The only limit on that is a legal precept that's come up through courts that says you cannot set the compensation so low that it effectively abolishes the office. So with that in mind, you do have full control over that, and that's fact by fact. That's a case by case scenario, very fact based type of an analysis. But I don't think you have that problem here in this city. Moving along, the city clerk also has statutory duties. These are duties that you cannot alter or cannot amend or take away, and those are the duties that are what the office was intended to do, which is acting as the custodian of the city's seal, keeping the city's book of ordinances, acting as the ex officio assessor, appointing deputy city clerks if necessary, keeping the city's financial records and publishing the city's financial report as required by the state law, keeping minutes of city council and the Board of Equalization meetings, administering affirmations and oaths, and acts as the election official, and acts also as the compliance officer for federal, state, and local statutes such as the Political Reform Act. That's the conflicts of interest issues. The Brown Act, that's how we conduct our meetings, and the Public Records Act, and that's how the public has access to the records. State law also allows for a council to add certain responsibilities or tasks that go along with that, and this council has done that in the past. And there are added duties to the city clerk, and we've done that through ordinance. The law requires you to do it through ordinance, and you've done that through ordinance. And I have a list here of the additional tasks duties that have been assigned, and they are serving as the executive secretary to the mayor and the council. Records city council direction to the various departments during city council meetings and ensures appropriate follow-up. Coordinates bid openings, keeps a book of resolutions for the city, prepares agendas for council meetings in conjunction with the city manager, and coordinates the preparation of the distribution of the agenda packets. Performs clerk duties for planning commission, including preparation of the agendas and taking minutes. Oversees and supervises all public records requests. Ensures city contracts and other legal documents are signed and recorded. Serves as a liaison for the city clerk's office when other departments, outside agencies, and general public negotiating and resolving sensitive and controversial issues. Overseeing and managing the city's records management program and assuming the responsibility for business license and renewals. In review of those are kind of a more developed list of what a city clerk does for a city. For all intents and purposes, they did not need to be added. That some of these things, if they were not added, would have fallen under, what happens within City Hall under the direction of your city manager. Your city manager, being the city manager council government, your city manager conducts the operations, and you all set the policy. So fundamentally, wrapping this up, that the city council, you cannot remove statutory duties, and you have full control over the compensation over a city clerk. She is an elected official. She is not an employee of the city. Her employer is the people of the city of Ione that have voted for her. You cannot, fire your city clerk. You cannot discipline your city clerk aside from political discipline. And that would be in the form of censure or some other form that of public, disapproval. But for all intents and purposes, it's an independent office that answers to the people of the city of Ione at this moment in time, in accordance with California law.
Any clarifying questions for Andy?
I'm not sure if there are questions, so.
No
Oh.
clarifying questions from council?
No clarifying.
Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Anyone on?
And people put her down the other day because of this. The duty she was doing that she did before, it wasn't her fault. She wasn't doing. The managers did this. They took their jobs away and give to somebody else. It wasn't her fault. And you guys just picked on this, and I think that's terrible. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I'm a little confused about why you guys want to cut her pay when if we have to, if you guys have to appoint a new city clerk, aren't you guys gonna pay them? So why are you gonna take away pay that she's already doing so much and she's getting so little pay? I'm just kind of confused, and I think we're all kind of confused about that. And, she's hardworking, she does her job, she loves this place. Frankly, I don't know why, but she loves it. I'm just kind of confused why you want to cut somebody's pay when they're doing a job. And then, and then replace her, eventually, and then have to hire another, want to make it appointed. Either way, you're gonna end up with the city clerk. I think you guys are getting a heck of a deal with her. And just a little confused about that. So I hope you consider that going forward, because it doesn't really make sense to any of us. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Kelly Traverso.
Hi, I'm Stacy Mitchell. I am a wife of a retired correctional officer, which is Scott Mitchell. And I've been in this town since 2006. I got married to the love of my life, and I've been here with this town. I love this town. I don't ever see me living anywhere else. I've known Janice the whole entire time I've been here. I've never known anybody else. And personally, after listening to all the duties that she's supposed to be doing, she, I think, deserves probably twice the amount that she's making. Because I don't know if I could do as much, have all those responsibilities and be making what she makes. So I think that you guys, and also too, you guys can't take our votes away. That is something that has really bothered me. With everything that's going on out there right now, the last thing I need is to have our votes taken away. So I don't like that, and I don't approve of that. And like I said, I think she needs to stay in there. She knows what she's doing. Obviously, she's been in there. I know at least, I think it's 18 years. And, obviously more. But, I just, 32, that's amazing. My mom worked for Gottschalk's for 32 years. So, I just don't see why all of a sudden you would want to do that to her. Like I said, she's always been very patient and kind and everything else, and she knows what she's doing. So, thank you.
Arlene Dutchke, 9830 5 Mile Drive. And a point of clarification, is this, the goal is to lower the salary or compensation for the city clerk? I'm not understanding why this is on here in this manner. Do you see what I mean? In other words, it's a discussion regarding the process to amend the duties or compensation for the city clerk. And I'm just asking what the goal is. And because if there's a motion on the floor that we should be discussing, then I'd understand it more clearly. In other words, if there was a motion from someone to lower the compensation for the city clerk, then I'd understand what we were discussing. And do you-
It's very misleading. Yes.
yes, and so that's why I'd like to have it clarified, Madam Chairman, please.
My understanding, it was for the 2025 clerk.
That's correct.
And that's the way it was.
This is really
supposed to be
badly
written.
written.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
It's just, it's confusing?
Yes.
Because,
And that was
you
the
understand, that's why
direction.
I'm
Yes.
confused. Because I don't understand, first of all, I don't understand the deliberation without a motion on the floor. In other words, we should discuss the motion that's on the floor in front of the,
Well, it's not there yet.
I know, it should be there first.
But yes.
And I guess that'd be my other question, Madam Mayor, do you appoint a parliamentarian for these meetings or do you have one?
You want-
Does the lawyer act as
The
a
legal expert
parliamentarian?
here.
Yeah, so
Sure.
the parliamentarian, the city does not have an official parliamentarian. I provide guidance to the council on the Brown Act and then the Robert's Rules of Order, which is what the city follows. I'm familiar with that. And if there's any question that comes up in the Robert's Rules of Orders during the process of your taking action, I would be able to provide counsel. The mayor presides over the meeting and controls the meeting and looks to legal counsel for any issues related to policy, procedure, and law.
Okay, so thank you. Do you understand what I'm asking? It's just that if there's a motion on the floor, then it's more easily debated and understood by the public. And as far as our discussion, it could be more to the point.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bailey Mitchell. I'm an Ione resident, and for full transparency, my father is Jack Mitchell. However, these are my words and not his. To begin, I would like to make it clear that I am here to support and to speak in support of Janice. However, I would also like to speak on the continuous and unprofessional and antagonistic behavior of our mayor. At the last city council meeting, our mayor continually blocked other council members from speaking on items that were outlined on the agenda. This is not off topic. This is actually referring into what was on within this agenda and with which she discussed to this topic from last meeting. Blocked other council members from speaking on items that were outlined on the agenda and made condescending remarks to the public, continually yelling out of order to any person who did not have her same opinion, personal agenda. This is not the first meeting in which Lafayne has led as mayor that has left the public feeling disrespected and has actively created division within the city council, city staff, and members of the public. As mayor, Ms. Lafayne, it is your job to set decorum and to run the meetings in a professional and respectful manner. Yet you have shown time and time again that you are incapable. The way in which Mayor Lafayne spoke to and about Janice at the last meeting is beyond disrespectful. And last I checked, Janice does not control City Hall hours. You berating her at the last meeting over office hours was nothing but a personal and public attack towards Janice and an excuse in undermining the public's decision in electing her. In light of Lafayne's continual and very public behavior, I believe it is the city council and the voting public's best interest to remove Allison Lafayne as our mayor and appoint Diane Ratton, the current vice mayor, to step into mayor duties. We need and deserve a mayor who can conduct meetings professionally, who respects the public. Diane Ratton can achieve this. As an Ione voter, I would like to reiterate my support for Janice. My vote would be to keep the city clerk as an elected position, not appointed, with oversight by the public and not this council. And I'll finish with a reminder, the respect you give is the respect you will receive. Thank you.
More public comment.
In the past, I'm going with what Arlene Dutschke said. In the past, we knew what the discussion was. Then we got up for public comment. Here we're doing public comment always before what we know you want. I've heard in the past that you wanted to lower the salary to $200. I paid a guy to pull weeds last week that cost me $310. So I don't even know for sure what is on your agenda. And you should tell us your agenda, and then we should be able to do public comment. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we don't write the agenda. The agenda is written for us. We can give direction to what we would like on the agenda. But well, as far as the steps, we identify it.
They used to be that way.
So may I?
Go ahead.
So
Right.
if there's any confusion on the task that I was asked to give, I'll take full responsibility on any confusion that's been caused. In order for anything to occur on with regard to the duties or the compensation of a clerk, whether it is your sitting clerk or whether it is a future clerk, I need to have clear direction, because this must be done by ordinance. An ordinance cannot be brought to a council without having an understanding of what we are doing. So in my mind, when we were discussing this about the process of whether or not we can change the duties, whether or not we can change the compensation, my intention was to bring to you the process, bring to you the existing law that surrounds this office, and to give that information to you so that you would be able to have a discussion as to what you want to do, whether it is current or future. Give that direction to me so then that I can carry out that direction with bringing back an ordinance, doing the appropriate noticing, doing the appropriate process and procedure. As far as procedurally of meetings, meetings are the council's meeting, and the council takes information from the public, considers that information. The public is important to the council's decision-making, but it's not a discussion. It is the council's meeting, and the public is largely here watching you as the council that's been elected do your business in public. Comment is something that goes toward the dais, and it's never really, or the laws doesn't intend for it to be a didactic discussion, meaning, I say something, you say something. So if there's any confusion in that area, the way you're conducting your meetings at this moment in time is appropriate and in accordance with the law.
Well, I'm following your script.
Yes,
so,
yeah. So
I
thank
mean,
you.
you've written it out for me in process.
Well, and we
That's
have
correct.
the life of the agenda item is that we take public comment prior to a motion for a resolution or anything. So, I mean, if I may, I'll read them. The chair announces item subject to number. Sponsor staff introduces item. Board asks technical questions for clarification. Public comment on the item. Chair asks for a motion. Chair asks for a second. Board debates motion. Board votes. Chair announces results. So that's the process for the agenda item itself. So our agenda actually tells you what we're looking at, what we're going to be discussing, and what the financial impact is, what the background is, all of the things that you see on the agenda. As far as the public opinion comes, that comes to us before we are making a decision. We may have to make our decision based on what we've read in our agenda and our information and what the public gives to us. So when you say you want to hear, what's on the floor, it's on the floor based on the agenda. So we don't make a motion until after we hear the public comment on the agenda item. So I hope that helps to clarify just a little bit.
It does. Ms. Ratton, I appreciate that. I really do. I mean that. And Arlene Dutchke, once again, 9835 Mile Drive, I own. And my question here is, like I say, I don't understand the process, and that's why I was looking to I'm sorry.
Lee or
Oh,
Andy?
Andy.
The city attorney.
Yes, to the city attorney, as far as parliamentary procedure and the way you proceed in a meeting. And so if he clarified and says that's fine, it's just, I've been to thousands of meetings in my life. And I taught parliamentary procedure. And it would seem to me that you have an agenda item, but then you put a motion on the floor so that people know what they're debating. And so in my eyes, and also, if there's a motion on the floor, it needs at least a second in order to be debated. And you do that because if somebody puts a motion on the floor and nobody cares, nobody thinks it's relevant, and there's no second, then it dies. And so that's my only question. Do you see? Because I think that makes a meeting move more smoothly and it lets people know what they're actually debating. And in this case in particular, because when I saw this, I don't know what we're debating. In other words, are you trying to raise her compensation, lower her compensation, change her hours, change her job description? I don't know. Do you see? And so for me, it's difficult to understand the debate when I don't understand what the end result would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Oh, you have
So Sue has her hand raised.
Sue.
Hi, yes, I'm an Ione resident and I'm curious as to if there is a way that the city council itself, not the clerk, is able to affect the agenda. Am I hearing correctly that you don't have control over the agenda, that the clerk, no matter what our reality is able to present the agenda and the council must follow it?
I'll clarify that. No, it's not the city clerk. The agenda is put together by staff, council, and the city manager. We come together at a meeting. Council goes through me to bring everyone tells me what they want on the agenda. I bring it to the city manager. He works with staff and we put the agenda together. What I was saying, the verbiage on this agenda was poorly written. I asked for it to be changed to reflect the 2025, and it was not changed. So
Thank you.
that's what I was saying when we didn't, this agenda clearly got lost in translation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think that helped a lot of us. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else on public comment? Oh, we're
So I wanted to go and look and see what the recommended action was that was brought forward, because usually that's what would be discussed because staff is bringing something forward. That's what gets discussed by you guys and then voted on, and then usually the public comments. So I go to this agenda item, recommended action, no recommended action from city staff. That's where the confusion is. Are you lowering pay? Are you changing duties? Is there an issue? That's what's all here. That doesn't really seem much in the staff report to say of what we're trying to accomplish here. Janice, I praise you for doing your job for less than $27,000 a year, because you could not pay me enough.
okay.
Your agendas are meant to be transparent. So your staff recommendations, if they're bringing something for you, there should be a recommendation, whether it's to receive direction, whether it's to have a vote, whatever it is, but this isn't clear. So that's
Okay.
where the confusion and
We
anger
will,
is in this.
we
right?
will give direction to staff to provide thorough agendas in the future. I agree with you on this agenda. It should be clear. Any more public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Councilman Atlan?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for your comments. Very confusing agenda. At no time, just so you'll know, at no time has there been any intention of cutting Janice's pay or voting her out of office prior to her term being up. the discussion, at least for my part, has always been at the next election, when the next city clerk takes office, that will reflect whatever changes we make. And whether you vote the city clerk in or it's I don't like the word appointed because it's a higher position, that's the next item. So I'll keep that separate. But in my opinion, I was here in 2015 when the city clerk duties were very much more minimal. I'm not saying that, and it isn't about Janice, just so you know. It's just about the city clerk. I was here in 2015. The city clerk got paid $200 a month, the same as the rest of the electeds. Because we had no staff back then, the council decided to make that a hybrid position, give the city clerk more duties. That wouldn't have been fair to do that for $200 a month. So the city clerk got all these extra duties and the pay. And where I'm at now is that I think the city clerk duty should be the next city clerk duty. So nothing's going to change until there's an election. The next city clerk will get paid $200 a month and will have the minimal duties of the city clerk. Whether the city clerk then is appointed or which is hired by the city manager, or is still an elected position. That's the next item, but someone didn't mention it, so I'll say that no one's trying to take away your vote. The very next item is putting it to the vote of whether you want the city clerk to remain an elected position, or do you want the city clerk to be like a staff position, like they are at some of the other cities. So what I would like to see is the city clerk's duties, the next city clerk, duties reduced to the basic city clerk duties, which is 4 or 5 things, and the pay reduced to the elected stipend of $200 a month.
We do.
Yeah, we get paid that amount.
So again, to clarify, this and the next item was put in the agenda to discuss the city clerk position at the next election. We at no point were going to put this into place for the current sitting city clerk. This current sitting clerk is doing all the duties that are outlined here. It's by ordinance. Those are the things she's responsible for. She's getting paid. That is not going to change. What we're talking about is the next city clerk. Currently, we have the city clerk doing a whole lot of duties, and those duties now are some have been moved to other members of the staff. The goal is to bring the city clerk back to the state mandated requirements, which are significantly less than what we are requiring of them, and bring these duties into a position that is managed and monitored by the city manager. We as a council would not be the ones appointing the position in my view. I don't know about the rest of the council. I would defer that role to the city manager to do the appointing and hiring of the position. The majority of cities in the state of California do not have elected city clerks any longer. The requirements and all of the things that have to be done need oversight, and having no oversight on the responsibilities of the city clerk makes it difficult for the city to function properly.
Can you repeat that?
Having no oversight by a manager, or in this case, the city manager, makes it difficult to make sure that the responsibilities are completed. So if something is not completed, the city manager would have the ability to say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Currently, as an elected official, there is no oversight over the position for making sure the work is getting done.
The additional responsibilities.
Yeah.
Councilman Rhodes,
I have nothing.
Mr. Mitchell,
No, got nothing.
What is the recommendation?
So if I could explain my approach to the recommendation. So given the fact that this is a political decision, I did not feel that it was my place to make any recommendation to an elected body. So if the intent was to not have a recommendation, but to provide the process for you, I will, change that approach to avoid these sorts of situations. My intent was to provide the process for under which you have the authority under the law in order to take the actions that were requested, whether can we do this and how do we do this? So the intent was not to have any position on this item, but just to purely provide the information to you as the elected body, and then let you as the elected body make those decisions, and I'd be here to provide guidance on the.
So you haven't made a
process.
recommendation is what you're saying?
Yeah, and
Thank you.
in lots of words. Thank you.
Well, I just think it's turned into a big mess,
Yep.
huge mess.
It's become very personal to Janice, which it is not. So that is unfortunate,
It was never about
very
Janice.
unfortunate.
I'll open it up again. This arose. Okay, this is not public comment. If you'd like public comment, you can come right up.
You may not speak from the gallery.
No.
If you would like, if the mayor reopens public comment, if the
Do it.
mayor reopens public comment, she will do so. You will need to approach the dais and make your public comment. Yelling from the gallery is not helpful, nor is it professional, nor is it helpful for us.
I think the mayor
I
did.
did open public comment. Thank you.
Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street. I understand the confusion and so forth and some of the comments. I think you see the overwhelming support for Janice Traverso and the position of city clerk. So I understand the dynamics here. What might be helpful here for future, at a lot of the meetings around, we do Rosenberg's rules, where you can make a motion but not exclude the public. So the public might be better informed on the path that you're taking and so forth. And ask Andy, but.
I am asking him, he's shaking his head.
But Rosenberg rules, I believe you can stay in more focused and so forth, and the public might better understand instead of Robert's Rules of Order. So it might be a consideration, and you might ask your lawyer about that path in the future.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
No.
I'd just like to say what Mr. Outland said, the next vote, that, so the people are telling Janice how good she's doing by voting for her. He's trying to say that they can tell how good they're doing, not the people. The people voting her in, they think she's good enough to do it, not the council. This is so they can influence the city clerk. This is all this is about. Thank you.
I've heard more than once from more than one individual. This is not about Janice. This is about the next victim, is all I can say. If that is true, then what's the problem with shelving this for 4 years until the next general election? What's the big rush now?
The election is in November.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Shelve it until after this one. What's the big thing? Well, why? I mean, she's been here, what, 20 odd years? You got to get her out in the next 6 months or somebody's going to die?
She's not
What's
getting
the
out
big?
She's not getting out the next 6 months.
Well, like I say, what's the hurry now? What's the motivation?
The
I
next
think we all
election,
have our suspicions.
the next election is the rush. We
That's
want
what
to
I'm
get this.
saying is wait it, not this one, till after in 4 more, in 8 years. What's the big thing?
Teresa Mitchell, I own Transparency. Jack Mitchell is my husband. Allison, you made it personal at the last meeting when you berated Janice in public at this meeting after public comment.
Off topic, come on.
This is off
No, this
topic.
is on
No,
topic.
hold on a second.
This is not off topic.
The topic
The
is,
topic
You're off
is
topic.
the city
It's my
clerk.
turn to talk.
No, it's not your turn to yell at the mayor.
the topic is amendment of the
She
duties and
said you have
compensation of the
said
city clerk.
repeatedly,
That's the
you-
topic.
you
I'm
guys-
sorry. If you're
you
going to
guys
yell at
have
us,
discussed
we
it.
cannot
You
continue.
guys have discussed it, that it's not personal. I'm saying it is personal. Miss LaFane made it personal.
Yes,
Dominic, you
please.
made it personal a couple of meetings
Please.
before that, where you berated Janice in a meeting as well. It
No, I
was
didn't.
personal. And the
Dominic,
three
don't-
of you have
don't
made up
even-
your
don't
mind.
respond.
You know what you're voting on. The other two have no say. Allison, you cut them off at the last meeting when they wanted to speak, when it was their turn to speak as
You
city
may not
council
disrupt the
members.
meeting.
They weren't disrupting
No,
the meeting.
you are disrupting the meeting.
Recommend closing public comment, moving to your next item, unless there's going to be any desire to
Yeah, you
continue.
gotta make the motion. Okay.
Close comment.
We're closing public comment. We've opened it up for your second round and now we're closing it. And we can make a motion to close it.
You closed it.
Closed it.
Can we make a motion on this item? The way it's written?
If I may
Yeah,
make
yeah,
one
so
comment
if you,
first.
yeah, sure, if you just give me an idea of what kind of, what you're looking at doing, and I'd be able to.
The next city clerk to be an elected person getting a stipend of $200 a month, the next city clerk.
Yeah, so I take that as a direction to come back, and that'd be through by way of ordinance, and we bring that back for you all to go through the ordinance process. So absolutely.
That's fine.
So that's my direction to staff.
And do you want that at the the next meeting?
Could
the
you
following
repeat
meeting?
that again, Dominic?
I'm asking-
Immediately?
So this will now be probably not the first time that I've asked for, but I would like to ask for a resolution before that the next city clerk, please put the word next, please put the words 25 to 2028. That position will be paid an elected stipend and the duties reduced significantly to what they were pre-2015.
So I can do that for you. It
If I get-
requires ordinance
Sure.
because we have that in our muni code. So that's the reason why you don't have that before you today, but I can start that process and I'll work with George and staff to bring that to you ASAP.
I don't think it needs to be ASAP.
Well, it needs,
It needs to be so
that
the
was,
reason that there's a hurry is because in July, papers will start going out for whoever wants to run for the next city clerk. And that next city clerk needs to know what they're going to get paid. Otherwise, we'll be back here when halfway through the term, we'll be someone will be saying we're trying to cut their pay halfway in their term, which would not be fair. So this is why it's important now, because we pretty much got to hit that July. People need to know when they're pulling their papers, what they're going to get paid. Okay.
and what their
And
responsibility.
what their job duties are. And that's why, there is an urgency for that.
What about us that don't want to change it?
Then you can vote at the next meeting when this comes back, you can vote no. That's how it works.
Correct. So the motion is to bring back an ordinance and adjusting the duties and the comp back is on the floor.
I'll second it.
So with the motion in a second, you have a live motion now, Mayor.
Otherwise, it just sits where it's at.
Otherwise,
We get nothing for, if someone else runs for the city clerk for 2025, they would get a stipend if we,
They'll get what they're getting now, essentially,
or whatever you change it to.
or whatever it's changed to.
Doesn't matter the timing, but whatever. whatever you change it to be at any moment in time. You have, the council has complete control over the compensation.
So if the duties that were shifted to Janice in 2015, my understanding is most of those duties are, or not most of them, but some of those duties are being performed by staff or could be performed by staff and were previously performed by staff. Is that correct?
That's incorrect.
So you've been doing all those duties since
Yes,
you started?
and I had planned on not speaking tonight,
Okay,
but.
so
I,
I am trying to figure out,
may I speak? Why can't you talk?
I'll reopen it to public comment.
I'm not public.
You asked her a question.
All right, go ahead, Janice.
I wanted to thank the council for clarifying the past two meetings. That's not what I heard, but I appreciate you clarifying what you're planning to do for the new city clerk when the election comes up in November. But I also want to clarify that there is nobody on staff that is doing any of my job duties.
Okay.
And you can ask staff, and I've asked them personally myself. Is there anything that you're doing that's my duties? And nobody is doing what the city clerk. So I just wanted that to be clarified.
Okay.
And if you know of somebody that is doing staff. work,
You did tell me that some people were doing the agenda last year, that it had been taken away from you.
Yes, and that was by the interim city
Okay,
manager.
okay.
Who actually was the one that told me that she did not like elected city clerks.
Okay,
And that was her goal, was to take duties away. She took the duties from the city treasurer away. Our treasurer is not allowed to do her duties. But she gets her monthly stipend, which I'm so happy for her.
I think she's
that's
gotten
what
those
the-
duties back now, though, right?
No, she has not.
Okay, well, that's another.
That's another story.
Subject.
My understanding is she
Sorry,
was
I
supposed to get those.
brought that up, but I wanted.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of making the 2025 city clerk position?
No.
Well,
Bringing it back for.
bringing it back?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Again?
because it has to be done by ordinance,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna beat this horse, aren't
We
we?
are to death.
another one.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to have this item brought back to city council at the next meeting
Correct.
to make the date of the election.
Well, that's the next item, but this is to bring back the ordinance for the first reading, to reducing the 2024-2025
Okay,
city clerk duties, and then to also lower the compensation.
we want it on the next meeting, is what
That's
I'm
correct.
asking. Yes,
That's correct.
okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
I'm gonna vote no too. This has been a confusion, a lot of confusion. So I just want to let it be what it was and it is and move forward, because this has just been, yeah. And you know, when Janice does leave here, she told me she wasn't going to run again. I would want her send off to be what it should be. And what she would deserve after putting in all those years here. So. All right, sorry, guys.
That's the way it works.
Not usually. All right. Well, item number 4 is sort of a moot point at this time, isn't it?
It's up to you all.
Separate.
It's a separate issue.
Oh, I've got my side mayor in the audience. Consider submitting a measure to the voters, City of Ione municipal election as to whether the office of the city clerk should be changed to an elected to an appointed.
So here, I again have been asked to bring this back. So as a city council and with the clerk being an elected position, The government code allows for the council to ask the voters whether or not they would like the city clerk to be an elected or an appointed position. The law is very strict as to how that is labeled in a ballot. So the ballot label would be, shall the office of city clerk be appointed? The question would be yes or no. In order to do this, the council must adopt a resolution. That resolution shall ask that the registrar of voters for the county of Amador place this on the ballot. The city would, at that time, consolidate this election with the statewide general election in November. So it would be all one ballot, which reduces the city's cost in conducting a special election, which you would incur all of the costs. You're going to be sharing the cost along all the jurisdictions. This must be done so the county of Amador, the registrar's office, has a calendar of measures. They ask for this to be placed before them at least 113 days prior to the election, which places that at July 15th. Well, within that time period, the resolution that's before you tonight does everything that the law requires you to do in order to put a measure on the ballot. And as you'll see, attached to the full text of the measure is it establishes that the office of city clerk is appointed and that the compensation is to be fixed from time to time by city or an ordinance, just like you do now. I will say that the office of city clerk, once going to an appointive office, the change that happens is that the council appoints the first one, and then you delegate to your city manager, or you can delegate to your city manager to appoint futures. Once you bring that in-house, that becomes from an elected to an appointed, which is more of an employment relationship in nature. So they still retain those statutory duties, just like a city manager has statutory duties. A city clerk will have statutory duties. So the job description, we wouldn't be able to tailor any less than what the law says a city clerk does. The change is, as you've all indicated, is that your city manager or the council would then have the ability to manage that position as they saw fit. The compensation, being that it would be employment in nature, is going to have to find a way to meet the California employment laws. So because this person would be in a appointed position, we would be giving you advice as to how that is to be compensated and what your parameters would be within that. But at this point in time, the action before you is a resolution that requests the Amador County Registrar of Voters to place a measure on the ballot asking the voters whether or not the clerk position shall be appointed. I'm happy to answer any
Thank you.
questions if you have any.
Does anybody have any clarifying questions from council or Andy?
So the cost, you did talk to the county and they said a max of 8,600.
That was an estimate. So that's what they estimate that the cost would be.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell?
Nothing. I got a question for Andy. Why is it so high when there's already an election coming up? And it's not that we're calling a special election. It was a special election, the last special election that was spoken about was around that price for a special election. This is not a special election.
These are the figures that I received from the registrar, or actually I didn't receive them. Staff received them. I had asked and didn't get an answer. Staff called and they got an answer. So I would imagine that with measures, you have a little bit more text that's printed because you have the text of the measure, you have arguments in support of and arguments, that are in opposition to. So that's what I would estimate that or guess that what the costs are, but I can find that out.
I have a little bit of input since I actually talked to the elections, and actually for holding a special election, it's between 12,348 and 13,848. That's for mail only. If you do mail and in person, it's between 19 and 21. So that is the lower price for an election now. And I guess it's just the cost of doing business just keeps going up. So that is the lower price.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I personally wish we'd had input from staff because some of these responsibilities fall under the purview at some point of the city manager. I wish I had had some input as to how it would impact staff if this position were appointed. I don't,
Can't now.
we can't now.
done.
It's done, yeah. Any other comment
No.
from council?
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna open it up to public comment.
Kind of said it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sue.
Hi, good evening, sorry. Simple administrative request for all of us. Please consider having your PDF agendas and documents be searchable. As we are going through this process, it's lovely to be able to search. Right now, it's a dead document, cannot be searched. Please consider that.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
I don't think we can do that. do we? Anyone else on public comment? All right, we'll close public comment. I'll reopen public comment.
I'd like to know how he explained the last time you got elected. It says if you get elected and it passes where is appointed, the elected official gets kicked out right there. I don't understand that. The people voted her in, so she should be there for another 4 years. I don't understand that. The people elected her in, how can that overturn it?
So you're talking about
Thank you.
Janice?
Yeah, so in the event that what the commenter indicates happens, the measure would, I guess, be the authority. So because it would be appointive, the council would have the ability to appoint. So in the event that, because the race for the clerk is going to be on the ballot, because it's not an appointed position at this point. The measure is going to be on the ballot as well. If the measure passes, somebody is going to win the clerk, regardless of what happens. There may be one person in the field or two people in the field. Whoever's in that field, somebody is going to win that election. This measure is going to control over that election because this measure will vest the power in the council to appoint the clerk.
Thank you.
I've heard two councilmen, and I agree with them, say this thing is poorly written. Oh, amen. And again, I'm going to ask, shall she be elected by the voters or appointed by the council? And that has to be in black and white on the ballot. You know, I don't know how much we can make that clear. Plymouth, you're right. They don't have a police department either. And one young lady might think that's not a bad idea. But also the town of Banning recently did away with that. Now, didn't we have a city manager that used to be in Banning? What was that loser? Stone, something like, I can't remember offhand, but I'm just kind of wondering if maybe that has an effect here. Maybe a little bit of that residual stank left over. But, after a couple of decades of having people talk and you listen, I'm a little concerned about how this all got started. Okay, and I think it was done in anger and it was done reflexively. And I appreciate the positive direction that a certain individual has taken tonight. I do appreciate that because people, quite frankly, yesterday in the mail, you got 6 pages from the regional board saying, Ione, get your head out of the warm, dark place you've been putting it for the last 10 years and get this cleaned up. So let's start doing this.
You're off
instead of,
topic on the
"No,
public
I'm
comment."
telling you, you're doing about this crap when you've got other things that are your infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more public comment? Am I still in the first round of public comments? I lost track. Okay. No, nobody on Zoom? Okay, we're closing public comment. Mr. Rhodes?
I have nothing.
Nothing. Mr. Mitchell?
I've stated before, I believe it's a step backwards taking the people's voice out.
Oh,
No, I'm answering your question, and having a little bit of time since I was elected and I'm an elected official, and I believe the clerk position should remain elected as well. So.
Mr. Atlan?
As I stated before, I didn't really care whether this was a appointed or elected position. However, if the salary is going to remain, you know, at a pretty good salary, then I'd like to see some oversight there with the city clerk's position, the next city clerk's position. But I really don't really care whether this is elected or not. But very important for everyone to understand is that we're not making that decision. We are saying to the voters, do you want this position to be elected? Or do you want it to be appointed? And we're not asking, you know, the 50 of you here today, we're asking, you know, the 2,500 that live in the vote in Ione. So this is not however this goes, it's not trying to take away your right to vote. You will have a right to vote along with everyone else.
And I would like to put it to the voters for the voters to decide that.
I wish it was just a little more clarified. The hours. What does a normal city clerk work? When they have limited duties, the limited duties that you said in the very beginning. What is the typical city clerk?
So the office of the city clerk is an independent office, so council really doesn't have the authority to, you know, establish timeframes or time periods or places or offices that they keep, and that's just been tested by the law and has said that council has certain authority, which is the compensation and the duties.
Okay. So if there's no vote on this, that means it remains an elected position at the salary unless it's changed at our next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
It would-
Okay, just want to clarify so everyone knows what we're voting on. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we consider submitting a measure to the voters of the city of Ione on November 5th, 2024 municipal election as to whether the office of the city clerk should be changed from elected to appointed.
I'll second.
So before you do that, so I'm assuming that that is also inclusive of adoption of the resolution that's attached, just for the record.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. It's not in the sub, that was not there, so yes.
So I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. No.
The vote wasn't done yet, Mr. Rhodes. I'm going to vote in favor. It does need to go to the people. Let the people decide, not this council. So opposed?
No.
Okay.
No.
The motion passes.
Motion passes, resolution passes. It will go to the voters for their vote.
That's correct.
As it should.
Fine.
Item number 5, review the draft budget for 2024 and 2025. Jody?
Good evening again. I think John's going to pull up a little slideshow. Yes, thank you. So I'm going to do this a little different than when we did the workshop. I set up my slides to kind of go along with the draft budget as hopefully was put in your packet. So hopefully we can kind of follow along. This would be obviously notes are kind of prompt me to remember things. You guys can stop me along the way and ask clarifying questions or get more detail. And then, of course, after we're done, if there's stuff that comes up later that made you think of something sooner, we could look through the documents again and then just kind of make sure we have what we think is all the information we need so we can bring this back as a final draft at the next meeting. Let me get my notes real quick. And I have the last from the budget workshop. I have our notes from there. So if you guys remember something and I maybe put it in here and you guys saw something that you guys didn't think I quite captured, just let me know and then I can look at my notes and maybe update those as we go along. All right. I think I'm ready, John. All right. So I just highlighted where we're at. We've come a long ways in this process. We're down to presented the draft budget to the council. I'm hoping at the next meeting to be able to get this adopted so we can beat the June 30th timeline, which is what our ordinance asks us to do. So I just kept everything on there so you just kind of know the process, how we got here. I know everyone's very curious, and if next year you guys want to start coming earlier, just kidding, then that's how we get here. So the first thing in the packet was the salary schedule. There aren't a lot of changes. I'm not going to go by there, but the first thing I would like to mention is that we do not have a COLA in here for staff. So that's not reflected in here. We restored a couple items that were in the 2022-23 salary schedule that got somehow deleted for the 23-24, and I'm just putting them back in because we do have people in those positions. And then a couple small increases, one for account clerk, just to increase it up. So the step one is that starts at $20, and the same with the maintenance worker, that they at least are starting at $20 an hour. I just thought that was a fair starting point. And then also we have the police records clerk, which is a new position for the police department. So that got added to the salary schedule with the salary range we're requesting. And the bottom of the second page is our temporary seasonal, which is mainly our pool people, community, all our rec people. This is really, even though it's going to effect as of July 1st, I'm thinking for next season that we could start them off at $17 an hour. Once again, that's just my suggestion. We can keep it at 16 because it will still be the minimum wage, but just to kind of give them an incentive to come work for us instead of someplace else. All right. Any questions real quick about the salary? Okay. On the personnel, what I kind of did on my slides is I had put in the packets all these different departments. The first one, as you see up there, is the elected officials, and I just kind of summarized it a little bit and showed what the monthly rate is, how many months. That one says the annual salary, employee taxes, our total annual cost, just to kind of give you ideas. Each one, it's very simple, especially for elected officials, because you guys don't get a lot of the health benefits and PERS and stuff that we get, but just all the information that's in the packet, I just try to summarize. So not everyone had to go through there. If you want to go to the next one, this is all for the admin, our building, our recreation and grants. And once again, you'll see that I had to add a couple columns and kind of add a few things just so I can felt like I'm not hiding anything. I just want everyone to see who's getting paid, how much, where the categories are, and then what the total employee cost is for each department. And that really ties in with our personnel budget, the admin finance, which was the second page. And it's kind of prettier up there, to be honest. So I might work on this before we make the final budget and put it in a budget book so it looks a little nicer. Next page is our police, fire, and public works. They have a few, well, one, uniform allowance. So I had to make an extra column for that. Once again, I'm trying to just be real clear about our different departments, our wages, but we expect overtime to be payroll taxes. We just kind of figure that out. A lot of it is required like ER or PERS for the, PERS tells us how much we have to pay for that. And that's for each department, obviously. And I think I mentioned this on a later slide, but this is for police and fire. Yes, thank you. You can go to that one. Police and fire, that includes the new positions that the police department and the fire department requested. Police is asking for 2 full-time police officers that are sworn positions and 1 of the record clerk that's not. Fire department is asking for 2 additional personnel also. And then there's a couple other minor changes in there, and just some information to let everyone know, once again, that we're not doing anything that, I want everything to be very clear, very, what's the George you keep using, very transparent. Thank you. I want to be as transparent as possible. Prices are going up. It's because we changed a few things around. We had a public works that's doing an interim. He's part-time. We're going to obviously try to fill that with full-time. So that's going to raise that cost. So it's just kind of just reflected in this budget. And then we get into what funds we're going to use. So this is my idea, and input is always great because I don't think we discussed this at the draft budget with finance or the workshop. So besides figuring out each department how much it's going to cost, we need to figure out what funds are paying for it. So we have different funds to choose from. Obviously, we have the general fund, which is unrestricted. We have a wastewater treatment plant fund, enterprise fund, which is restricted to things only associated with the wastewater treatment plant. We have the gas tax, which we talked about earlier with the SB1 money. We can't use it for this kind of stuff. That has to be projects, but we do get that highway user tax money, and that can be used for fixing roads and just minor repairs and whatever we feel is appropriate. We have the restricted funds from the CFDs. We have the lighting and landscape. So we have many funds that we can choose from to decide how do we want to fund that department's expense. Best case is we know how much time they're spending places, and we can say, oh, they're spending 10% of their time here. We're going to spend 10% from that fund. Without that data, right now, it's kind of just asking the workers where they think they are, which I've been doing in the last couple of weeks. But starting in July, I'm going to start having a timesheet that has them track where they are during their day, during the week. So next year, when we come to this page, we can say, we spent a lot of time on sewer billing, a lot more than I thought. So maybe we should move admin a little bit more in sewer, or maybe more in gas, because I have to go do a lot of reports, whatever it is. But at this point, this was my best estimate. The reason I put 20% of the city council for the wastewater treatment plant is because we are starting that sewer rate study, and we're going to be having some stuff come to you guys in the next few months. We got to create a CIP. We're going to have to actually have meetings with the public to talk about the rate structure, how that's all going to happen. We got a lot of things that are going to be happening with the wastewater treatment plant and that sewer rate study, I would say up until like August and September. So I figured 20%, maybe it's 15. You guys want to throw numbers out there, that's fine. Some of the other ones like city clerk, city treasurer, building, they're really pretty much just general fund. I can't find another fund to help support that. And then of course, I'd already mentioned the admin. I kind of just know what I do and what some of the other people underneath me are doing, and just kind of took some liberty to estimate those. The police department, we do have that CFD, which up there it says restricted PD. That's the CFD fund, plus they get money for the cops fund, but we're really not supposed to use for operations. It's supposed to be something that the chief of police comes and asks for. But I put it in there so we have it in case we need it. If he asks for it, if he doesn't, we have to budget it somewhere. So fire, luckily we get Measure M money from that, and it's a substantial amount. So I put 50% of the fire and Measure M, 40% restricted, and 10% fire department, the general fund. And finally, Public Works, because we started this rec program, I put a little bit both the swimming into the arena. And swimming kind of has that rec. I think next year we're going to combine those two, the rec program, and the swimming kind of be all together. So I think that 5% would make more sense there because they're going to be helping out. And of course, 10 to the gas tax fund for those minor repairs, like I said, potholes, chip concrete. I don't know exactly what they do out there, but so that's where that is. For our citywide revenue and expenses, this was something I showed at the budget workshop. This is just to show that if we added up all our money and all our expenses, the green up top is our revenue. The blue line at the bottom is our expenses. And luckily our expenses are less. And then I'm going to do a much better graph where I show by the funds, because this is just all the revenue. So if all our revenue was like this, but the majority was wastewater treatment plant, but most of our expenses weren't, it wouldn't work for us. But this was just kind of a quick, easy graph. These are our citywide revenues by fund. So if we looked at our general revenue sheet, I think it's like 5 pages. Those spell this out. If it was one big pie, obviously our general fund is the biggest, wastewater treatment plant and our tertiary plant. And this is based on hopefully some new rates. Dominic gave me a little bit of an idea, since rates aren't going to effect till maybe November, they don't put that new rate in right away. So I modified that a little bit to reflect. One more, John. Thank you. You're good at this. And then expenses by department. It just shows our different departments and just a pie chart to show how much they kind of get an idea of where the money's being spent. And once again, this is overall funds. I think it's the next slide that has the graphs, I hope. Oh, oops, it's not. So, okay, so we did the personnel. The first one that had the general funds and the different allocations was the personnel only. And most of the operation expenses, which is our supplies, chemicals, all the other thing not personnel related, I pretty much followed the same format, except for city council. Now I put you guys at 100% general fund. Before, remember I mentioned 80-20, but it's not like we're going to spend supplies on wastewater treatment plant on city council. Legal, I separate that a little because we still have something going on with the tertiary plant. I'm not sure when that's going to wrap up. Police and fire, I kept the same as our personnel. The engineering, once again, that was a little bit of a guess for me, but I do know, once again, with that rate study coming through and some stuff going on with the tertiary plant, that we might need some engineering done with that. So I kind of divvied that up among a few different things. Citywide, that one's a little tougher. A lot of that's just insurance and like bank fees and those kind of things. So, you know, we do have some with the wastewater treatment plant. Is there insurance liability higher than the general fund? To be honest, this is the first time I've had to do the allocation part of a budget. So once again, I'm just using my best estimates. This might be something maybe mid-year we'd have to look at, especially once we start tracking these timesheets and really getting into the nitty-gritty. But once again, when you guys want to comment, if you guys want me to make some notes and maybe look at different allocations, I'm more than happy to do that. Recreation, we'd actually created a recreation department. So I think most of it's going to come out of there, in the swimming, and then some general fund stuff, just because there's always admin stuff we need to do. We broke up the lighting and landscape district between the CFD lighting and landscaping and the restricted. So if there's a sheet in our expense part of our packet that shows those two different things. And what I did is I just kind of figured out what the percent was of those two expenses. It was really just a dollar amount, but then I just worked backwards to get my percents. Public Works and the waste are separated. So if you look through the expense documents of the budget, I actually pulled out the wastewater treatment plant, and kind of like the other thing, I figured out what that dollar amount is and I worked backwards to get the percent. But that's another thing I'm hoping next year we can really nail into, because I got a new person working that's really digging into those accounts payables. So I'm really hoping to get some really strong numbers next year. And then finally, the Public Works, 80% general fund, because I think a lot of that work they're doing is our parks. They don't do too much at the wastewater treatment plant, but they have some roads and maintenance and stuff, swimming pool and Castle Oaks. So I just kind of split them a little 5% for each of those smaller departments, majorities, general fund. And this is my new graph. It shows with that information, the allocations for those different funds for personnel and for operation added together, what our revenue and expenses for each fund. So the very first one, the biggest one, is our general fund. So we're going to have over $4 million in general fund revenue. And if you looked at the documents, that's the exact same number that's on my revenue worksheet for total fund revenue for general fund. Expenses is taking those departments, figuring out those allocations. That's how much general fund expenses we're going to have for this year, which is 3.5, almost 3.6 million. So luckily, once again, our revenue is a little higher than our expenses. That's kind of true for everything. There's a couple exceptions, and then gas tax, it all follows: gas tax, revenue, expenses. Swimming and rec, obviously, we're going to have less revenue than expenses. But part of that is I did put that little bit from Public Works in there, and we're hoping to build up that swimming and rec program. So hopefully we'll get that revenue up and we'll work on the expenses. And the other one was obviously restricted police and restricted fire, because our revenue coming in from CFDs and even adding in the COPS program, our expenses are much higher than what we allocated for those departments for this year. But we had a substantial 600,000, top of my head, for the restricted fire balance that we were kind of working through because those funds weren't being used in prior years. Couple notes. I mentioned it earlier. We are working on a sewer rate study. We're hoping it be done hopefully October-ish, November. We're trying to get some CIP, which will come to the council. Jonathan, our engineer, is working on that for us. We're supposed to be doing it every 5 years. The last one was in 2008, so we are a little behind schedule. We do have to go through the Prop 218 process, which means once we get this a little bit more finalized for all you guys, everyone's going to get a notice in the mail, letting them know what's going on, what we are proposing our new rates to be once we determine that, and giving them opportunity to vote yay or nay. Or actually, you guys, I think you have to vote no, and bring it in to make it count. So good information here. So we're hoping to get that all done. Like I said, in the next few months. I think Jonathan's kind of on task to have that CIP for the sewer rate study to you guys by July, so that they can put it in the model, so they can start looking at what that rate is. So we're not too surprised too far down the road. And then we're going to have plenty of time to have some workshops with the public and of course the city council. I think we're at the last one, which is questions. So I went through it kind of quick, but if you guys had some insight, some thoughts, I'm open and willing to listen to how we can make this even better.
Well, it's pretty similar to our workshop, which we covered a lot of this in the workshop.
Right. The only thing I hadn't covered in the workshop was the allocations. So I kind of summarized them there by the worksheet and then just the graph. But by next final budget, once we make changes, you guys will see those by each department and then each fund. So to say like general fund, admin, X amount of dollars, wastewater treatment plant, admin is that much, and then added those together would be the full budget, or however it's broken up. I try to simplify.
Okay.
It'll be better, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Diane.
The next budget, we will have a better grasp of the actual allocations based on actual working. So you'll have, staff will be monitoring, if they're working at the wastewater treatment plant, we'll know they're working for 4 hours.
Right.
You know, they're with the parks, they'll be there at the parks.
I recently updated our timesheet, but I haven't added that, but that's my next step is have on the bottom. I don't need to get in the weeds. I don't care if they were changing a pump, but if you're at the wastewater treatment plant, put 2 hours there.
Yeah, right.
Or like me, if I'm doing sewer billing, it takes me 3 hours, just write 3 hours on that day. And then that way we really have that data to go off of, because
Yeah,
that is
It's
so
hard to
helpful.
allocate when you don't know what they're, you know, where and when they're.
And,
working there.
and honestly, even, I'm sure you guys are the same way. I can't remember what I did last week. So it's just like, well, I remember I spent quite a bit of time. I looked through my emails. I'm like, oh yeah, I was on that for 2 hours.
Is the staff clear as why we are following that or why we're doing that as far as the allocation? My one piece would be just make sure that they understand we're
Right.
not
Trying to make more.
Yeah, we're not
busy work
ogres
for 'em.
looking
Not
over every,
micromanaging.
we're
Right.
really
I
trying to
think
use
they
this as
enjoy
a
it.
tool. So
You know where the money is gonna come. from.
Right.
I would just say make sure that they,
I
Yeah.
am gonna have to have a staff meeting with them just to kind of explain it.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be the extra piece that, for me, I don't want that number not to equal that number.
Right.
So just to real clarify, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I don't want them to think we're monitoring where they work.
So Mr. Atland, do you have any?
No, I just want to say, working on the finance committee with you and Andrea, you've done a great job. It's a lot easier when there's continuity, which we haven't had. I don't think some of your allocations, it doesn't really matter. It's not a giant amount of money. For example, taking 20% from the council, which is like $2,400, right?
Right.
So just good job. Was kind of disappointed that nobody showed up. Well, there was 2 people showed up for the budget workshop, where this is a time where you get to say, hey, can't you spend some more money on this or that? And so it is what it is. But do note, there was 2 police officers hired or to be hired and a 50% time, part-time records clerk, and also 2 more paid firemen going into this budget. And luckily, you know, we have some money coming in from investments, and I gotta thank George
Yeah.
Lee for that. So yes, he does. Is there a round of applause? I mean,
Yeah.
he picked up the phone and made a call. I know it's more than that. And you know, what you notice is, you know, the green line is above the blue line, which is good. So, you know, well done, and thanks to the staff for putting it together.
Yeah. And I appreciate you getting this to us so timely.
Yeah.
We're not, 3 days before the end of the fiscal year trying to figure it out. So you did a great job,
good
bringing it to us more than once. This is maybe the 3rd time. We had a great workshop. And you guys have really worked hard. So we appreciate that.
All I got, thank you, Jody.
Okay.
Anything, good job.
All right.
So do you guys have any
there a recommendation
reason to
on
want to
this?
change any of those allocations at this time, or would you rather wait till later in the year and just see where we're at before I start
I think
analyzing?
maybe your review is probably
Yeah.
gonna be a better,
I
Okay.
think once you get the data in,
Yeah.
it'll be
Okay.
better off.
really.
We can't.
Okay,
We spinning your wheels.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Throw
Joe.
darts at the board.
So real quick, when's the final budget going to be presented? That'll be at the next meeting? Okay. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to go on to reports and communications from city manager.
City attorney.
City,
You
I
miss
jumped
him.
right over the top of you, sorry.
I have none.
Reports
Ms.
from city
Mayor.
manager.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just want to let you know that there's been continued vandalism at Howard Park on a constant, regular basis. So Chief Alfred does have a solution, which he will speak to right now. Chief?
The solution.
Yes, I have a solution.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So actually, we have been talking about a mobile camera trailer that we can move around. It's about 12 grand a year. It can be used for incidents like this with the park. It can be for the vandalism. It can be used for public works projects where they have equipment sitting out. We can sit there and drop that out there and make sure people aren't messing with it. You can use it for homecoming. There's all kinds of applications for it. But when we were discussing it, it's something that I can bring to the council to show you that would be one way to attack that vandalism problem. And we know a lot of time it's coming from our wonderful out of towners that come in, use the skate park and like one of the bathrooms and just destroying them. And unfortunately, even with the extra positions I'm asking for, I can't have an officer out there in the bathroom 24/7. And so having the extra eyes out in the park would be a good thing. So if you direct me to do so, I can bring that back to council at a later date.
Thank you, Chief.
We are continuing to work on the proposals for the soccer and the baseball. That'll be coming to the Parks and Recreation Committee soon. There are some good solutions that present a win-win situation for both the city and the youth baseball and soccer. As Jody said, Mr. Mitchell is continuing to proceed in spearheading the sewer rate study and the impact fee study. So we can get that information to the council soon. We had another positive meeting, a Zoom meeting today with Ms. Gibson and Mr. Critchfield and Mr. Borge. So that easement is moving forward.
Great.
Okay, that is moving forward because of the fact that Mr. Borge agreed. The big issue was the fact that he would have to pay market rates for a certain portion of the road. But Mr. Borge graciously agreed to do that. So again, that easement is moving forward. So that's good news.
Thank you.
And the
Lord,
school district
yeah.
ponied up their share.
So as part of the agreement, they will give the city the 380,000, which has now grown to
Yeah, I thought it was
480,000.
400.
And they will give that to the city, and then it would be the responsibility of the city to disperse for the road.
Did they
So-
say when they're going to give it to us?
As soon as the agreement is signed.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
Okay,
That's
so
great.
that is positive movement. Let's see here. And then we are beginning to, I will beginning to have conversations with the POA, Police Officers Association, next week to discuss their potential increases. So next week,
Okay,
but that's all for now.
thank you. So council comments, committee reports, future agenda items. We have this on the agenda at every meeting, but we don't talk in public about future agenda items that we'd like to see on the agenda. So meaning if someone from the public brings up a topic that we feel maybe needs to be on a future agenda, we can talk about it here. But I'll turn it over to you for now. Council comments, committee reports, future agenda items. So throw in your future agenda items here where we're all present. That would make for better communication. Mr. Atlan?
Mr. Allen, okay. Committee reports. So I was at Parks on 5/28. And they got update on the pool. The pool in the summer camp is opening on June the 8th. Movie night was last Friday, and did it go thumbs up? Good, excellent. The council blew up then the screen, so that was good. So there's movie nights last Friday of the month. We also addressed the benches, which we talked about earlier, which was really good that the Owens and Shearer family get to pick whatever they want. And everything's paid for donations. Also, the Memorial Veterans Park people came here and they are proposing, and it was approved by the parks, to do an eternal flame there at the park, which looks real nice. And all of that will also be paid for at no cost to the city. And also, the Parks Commission is working on sponsorships for sponsoring kids that can't afford to pay for swim lessons. So there's going to be a program there where they'll take in donations for kids that need some help to pay for the swimming lessons. That's all I got on that. Future agenda items, don't have anything at this time. Council comments, just want to say, you know, it's not easy to be the mayor. I've been the mayor a couple of times. The mayor is just trying to run an orderly meeting, okay? She's not trying to take away your right to speak. So I disagree with the comments that you all made respectfully. But she's just trying to run the meeting orderly and stop the back and forth from the seats, and otherwise you can't run an efficient meeting. So I just want to say thank you, Mayor, for running orderly meetings. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Vice Mayor Ratton.
I would like to get, within the next couple meetings, the contract review. List of-
Actually, I forgot to mention that in my city report. So there's something like this right here. Ms. Bonham has been spending an extraordinary amount of time putting together a comprehensive report in terms of start dates, end dates, termination dates, but it's comprehensive. So you'll get that at the next.
We will get outstanding.
Okay.
I would also like to have a review of the ARPA funds and the current assigned projects to it. We have to allocate those funds by December of this year. So we need to get those projects identified. If we're changing anything, we need to change it now. So I would like to see that on the, if possible, the next meeting. And we had talked about the solar, just what our current rate is. I found it, it's 12.1265 is our rate per watt. And that is really cheap. So if there's any way we could expand our solar footprint, that would be fantastic, especially if we could expand it using that same rate of pay. So that may be something we could bring back for discussion at a later date.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Yeah, I just got one thing. I spend a lot of time with various government agencies. That's what I do for a living, anywhere from feds to state, county. And at the end of the conversation, the same thing always comes up. How are you surviving city council? And the last meeting was an absolute disgrace. I would like to put on the next agenda to put no confidence in the mayor and replace the mayor with the vice mayor. That's it.
Councilmember Mitchell.
CDCR's, I know the RWQCB has asked it and has asked CDCR for increased monitoring reports. I don't know that the city is receiving those. I think we should ask. I've been told at times, and I've through research seen that the RWQCB has asked CDCR for reports that have not been turned over in a timely fashion. With regards to some of the issues for VOCs, I'd like to see us as a city get those reports so that we're following through with
We do have a monthly meeting now between CDCR, ARSA.
excellent.
We'll
That'd
have
be a
that
perfect
as well.
time to ask for the reports probably then. I attended the monthly meeting for Marlette Mobile Home Park. They've got a couple items I'll go over with the city manager, not a big, not big things, but some stop signs covered by trees and some other items that they were asking for that I will relay onto you. Had a great time at the Cops for Kids golf tournament. I want to congratulate the Ione Police Department and Cops for Kids program. If your kids aren't involved in that program, they should be. But what a wonderful time. And I hope you guys raised a lot of money, and thank you for doing that program. And I know a lot of my law enforcement friends are here, so thank you very much. There's a free pool party Saturday, June 8th, from noon to 7. And then you have the Menagerie Oddities Market Saturday from 11 to 6, music, food, and fun out at Preston Castle. So check those out. That's all I got. Thanks.
I had the ARPA fund as well, but I also saw Jody had some of the designated CIP projects in the budget that were identified as ARPA.
I haven't done the capital asset part.
Oh, okay. All right. The Arena Ad Hoc Committee. If we could maybe discuss that at some point. I gave you all the names.
On the chat.
No, I emailed them to you.
Okay.
Okay. I think Foothill is on the next agenda. Foothill Boulevard.
We'll have an update on
Okay. And here's a question, and this is an inquiry. Out at Howard Park near the barn. There's a very large public works project going on. We have a trench that's been dug by a big backhoe. It's exposed pipes. And I'm a little concerned about it. Knowing how the pipes run through that park, it appears that what's been put in is some sort of three-way meter to intercept our water. It looks like a 12-inch pipe that necks down to a smaller pipe of an 8-inch pipe. I'd like to understand what's happening out there.
That I wasn't aware about.
You're not aware of it?
I'll pursue
It's
that
a
with-
pretty big project.
I'll pursue that with Mr. McNamee.
Yeah, the line is going directly across, pointed towards the end of the park, towards the highway, and it's a 12-inch pipe.
Okay.
And I believe it could be potable water, but I think it's the untreated water. I'm not quite sure, but there are two lines that run out there.
I'll find out
Our,
about
our
it.
water is potentially going to go somewhere else. And I don't know who owns those pipes. Does AWA own those pipes or do we own those pipes?
I don't know, but
You
I'll
don't
find out.
know? Okay.
I'll find
All
out.
right. That's it because I've given you our agenda items already. One of them was the contract. We wanted a little more detail on that contract spreadsheet, the tasks that were under those
So I
contracts.
think was to have a follow-up meeting
Okay.
to discuss this
Okay.
next
Oh,
meeting
yeah.
and then another meeting down the road. So.
Well, we'd like to see it on the next
Sure.
meeting. I was hoping it was going to be on this one, but I'm glad it wasn't because this one might wait too long.
Okay.
Okay, can I get oh, no, we're gonna resume to closed session. We're gonna take public comment on the item for closed session first. That item is conference with real property negotiators. So we'll open that up for public comment. Anyone on Zoom? No? Okay, we're closing public comment. We are adjourning to closed session.
I almost pointed it out.
Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of Tuesday, June 4th, the city I own back. Order. There was no action taken and nothing to report out of closed session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
It's not a contract, it's, yes, accept.